Hello, welcome to my channel. Now I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is that if you've been following my kitchen extension and renovation series, you'll know that I've been talking a lot about upstairs recently. We've just finished the upstairs extension bedroom and the ensuite bathroom. And the good news is that we finally moved downstairs to the kitchen, which is the very reason that we did the extension in the first place, was to create this kitchen diner. We had quite a small kitchen before with no real space to dine and entertain in it. So we've gone out to the side, out to the back, and pretty much almost quadrupled its size. So we've left this, we've had this shut up for quite a while. It's been watertight with the windows and so on. And we've been living in it as much as we can with just the concrete floor on it. But the original kitchen's still in place. We just knocked through, cleaned up and stuck a camping table in the middle. So that's been amazing. We've learnt how we use the space and all those important things ready for the fit out, which we're about to do, and we will share with you, of course. But just by way of setting the scene, I wanted to share with you the kind of key design choices we made at the build stage of the project that really informed how we designed our kitchen itself. And this is where the bad news comes in, because sadly we didn't use an architect, and so that meant doing a lot of research ourselves to make sure that we got this space right. And for us, it's a space that we think is going to change our lives, especially with a young family and how we live. And we also wanted it to obviously evolve, be a space that could evolve with them and that we might be able to change and accommodate everyone's needs in the future. So in order to learn really how to get the best out of the space beyond all the usual things that you do, such as scrolling through Instagram and Pinterest and reading magazines, I actually spoke to friends and neighbours who'd recently built extensions and asked them what their biggest regrets were. And they actually helped me decide what my biggest priorities were. So it's kind of sad, but I think it's really good to learn from other people, and people were pretty forthcoming about telling me what they would have done differently. And in some cases they were things that they were even in the process of changing, but often it's very expensive to change these things after the event. So the more you can get right from the beginning, the less money it will cost you in the long term. And if you've been watching any of this series, you know that we're a lot about saving money. So let's dive straight in. I'm going to share with you my top 5 priorities for our build that have come out of other people's woe. So the number one thing, believe it or not, that came out for me talking to people who'd done extensions already, the number one regret was not having underfloor heating. Now, of course, underfloor heating is quite expensive. It can be quite a significant part of your budget. So if you're trying to build on a budget, it's an easy place to seem like it might be a good opportunity to save money. But actually, a friend of mine was almost in tears when she was telling me about this, because she said that she wished in retrospect that she'd just not bothered having a new kitchen. She'd just used her old carcasses, got a cheap work surface, cheap appliances, and replaced all of that much further down the line. But she wished that she'd put in underfloor heating, because the UK climate, it can get quite cold in the winter, and she found that her family weren't using the space as much as she'd expected them to because it wasn't warm enough in there. And they'd put space heaters around, they had standalone heaters, but she said it never got the feeling that she expected from the kitchen extension because she didn't have that underfloor heating in. So if at all possible, if you can think about, even if it's not the underfloor heating, just heating your space as efficiently and effectively as possible from the beginning, I think that's a really important thing. Because if you spend a load of money building an extension and no one wants to be in it, then that's kind of sad. So point number 2, this is something where a lot of people had a bit of a miscommunication problem with their builders, and it's about level access. So level access is basically having the same level from your kitchen or your new space and the space outside, be it a deck or a patio, not having a step or a difference in the height. So if this is possible to incorporate in your build, it's a really nice thing to have. People enjoy it increasingly because you can create that great outdoor-indoor space. But I came across 3 examples of people I spoke to where they were expecting to have level access, but actually during the build process, obviously they weren't that involved in it, they weren't watching it that closely. They ended up in the end with a step, and they tried to rectify it afterwards, which cost them money. It wasn't as good as getting that simply in place and right from the beginning. But often a builder won't necessarily know right from the drawings that that's exactly what you want. They may assume that there's going to be a small step in there, it may be easier to build that way, there may just be a general issue around it. So it's just a conversation to have early on in your build before it's too late or too costly to do anything about it. Number 3, which relates to number 2 in some ways, is not having enough natural daylight. So if you're looking for that level access, there's a good chance that you're thinking about a bifold door or a sliding door. And of course, that's really a number one feature in a lot of people's extensions these days, and helps you to create that outdoor-indoor space. But really the idea of natural light in general, it's great to have that bifold door, but thinking about how the light moves around your property so you can be bringing that light into it all day long, and also stopping that light coming in if perhaps you're south facing and you think it might be a bit overbearing, which can be another issue. It's just something to think about really, really carefully at the design stage of your build. So number 4 is actually the inside light, and this is another area where people seem to fall out with their builders quite a lot, because the builder may assume that you just want some spotlights and they may plan for that during the build process, but when it actually comes to it you may have a completely different idea, like some pendulum lighting over an island, for example, which seems to be quite popular now. But it may be that you bring this up when it's too late for the builder, and they may have to then go in and retrofit stuff, which is going to be costly to you, disruptive, and generally a nuisance, when it could have been sorted out a lot more favourably early on. So have your lighting, plans for your lighting, right when you plan everything else at the beginning of the build. And finally, number 5, which is also on an electrical angle, is actually getting enough sockets, and also thinking about internet connectivity if that's important to you. So for us in this space, we know that we're probably going to use it as a semi-workspace. We anticipate that in the future the kids will probably want to be on their laptops and computers and doing homework and things in here. We want to be able to connect to the internet, and we want to be able to hardwire it to the internet because we're often downloading big files and so on. We don't want to have to rely on Wi-Fi all the time. So we have designed the room in such a way that we're going to have sockets in as many sockets as possible, and also have that connectivity as well. So there we go, they were the 5 top priorities that we came up with for our space. We couldn't afford to do everything in the space, but we felt like they were the most important things to get right, and everything else would follow after that. If you've got any other suggestions, then please do feel free to share what was most important to you as well. If you found this video useful, please, as ever, do give it the thumbs up. And if you're interested in following the series in general, just hit the subscribe and the notification button, and that will keep you up to date. But I will be back very soon with more from our kitchen and more about our kitchen. So please do stay in touch and come back soon. Bye bye for now.